Greetings, people. My name is Ira, and you're listening to a YouTube series that I'm calling Leaving the United States from Decision to Result, a multi part series. I have no idea how many parts there are going to be in the series. I'm going to try to talk for 5 or 6 minutes at a time and see if we can't wrap up one topic and move on to the next. I'm not going to be very tricky about it. There's not going to be music. I'm not going to do a lot of editing. I'm not going to take out the ums and ands and hesitations and oops, I can't remember what word I was talking about or what word I was trying to say. I'm just going to go ahead and talk for 5 or 6 minutes and see if we can't get to an end place and then pick it up again in a few days. So if you like the video, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss anything that I have to say. Aren't you lucky? This is about making the decision to live somewhere other than the United States. And it is not a simple decision to make and not a simple decision for us to have made. We travel all around the United States and we've pretty much been in all of the lower 48, at least those that interested us. I don't think we would have considered living in South Dakota or North Dakota, and I don't think we ever visited North Dakota, but we've been pretty much throughout the United States. And having lived in the Northeast for 35 or 40 years, we decided that we didn't need any more Northeastern winters. In fact, my wife, who's born and raised born in Louisiana, she'll tell you she spent a cup of coffee in Louisiana as an infant, and then she moved to Texas, and that's where she was brought up. Having lived in the South all of her life, she made it very clear that when we retired, she was never going to shovel snow again. So we had to think about the American South, and we weren't really that interested in the American South. We thought about the West Coast of the United States, California, and the Pacific Northwest. But that's just as far away as anywhere else in the world as far as we're concerned. It's as far away as London. So why not just think outside the box and outside the United States? Kathy had gone to college in Mexico, and we'd visited Mexico several times. And the publications that talk about being expat Americans do talk about Mexico and talk about Belize and Costa Rica and Panama and Colombia. And I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but we were looking at first world countries. We're first world people. We're Europe centric, I think. And the truth of the matter is that outside of the compounds in places like Costa Rica, where Americans live, outside of cities in Mexico where Americans live, it's really third world. And in fact, we have friends who live in Mexico, both native and American expats, and they have problems. It is a third world country, basically. So we decided we wanted first world, and that meant we would have to be considering Europe. Now, we have friends in England, and we hope to make friends in Europe. So if you're going to visit your friends in England and where you want to travel is Europe, then why not live there? And so the decision became to look for a place to live in Europe. We had no interest in maintaining two houses. We didn't want to go back and forth that much. In fact, in 5 years, we've only gone back once or twice each. We were going to sell out in the United States and find a place to live out our active retirement years. So we thought about Europe, and because we thought about Europe, and because we had said that we're never going to shovel snow again, the next thing was to look at places in Europe that might accommodate that kind of lifestyle. And again, the publications like International Living that talk about places where Americans might want to live an expatriate life. They talked about places like the Algarve in Portugal and the Costas in Spain and the Languedoc region of France. It's now called Occitanie. And so we decided that that's what we would do. We decided that we would investigate those places. And while we were investigating those places, one of the things that we had to realize was that we were going to have to learn a language. We didn't have to necessarily. There are places that you go everywhere in the world where you don't have to speak a word of the native language. In fact, as we were doing these investigations, there was an interview that I saw from a Brit in one of the costas in Spain who said, he'd lived there for 10 years and he'd never spoken a word of Spanish. Well, that didn't interest us. We wanted to learn a native language. We wanted to be a part of a native community as much as we could. So you have to think about learning a language, and then you have to think about uh, uh, navigating the bureaucracy that's involved both in moving to a country and living in that country. And that's why this video is not going to be a step-to-step video. This is not going to be a manual on how to do it. Check this box, check that box. I'm going to talk about our experiences, but in several places I'm going to be saying you need to seek professional guidance. Uh, Bureaucracies in places like France, where we finally ended up living, are unique. The rules are different country to country, and if you make a mistake, it can be very costly. So there are times when I'm going to say, look, this is the way we did thus and so, but I would suggest that when you get here or when you get there, that you look at some way to find professional guidance to help you navigate the bureaucracy. Bureaucracies are very interesting things, and of course in Europe in particular, they are very well defined and well refined. And people tend to think that the bureaucracies are in place to stop people from doing things. But that's not the case. Bureaucracies are in place to give the bureaucrat power. I mean, if you have a huge group of people who are hired by the government and who work in little boxes and who spend their day shuffling paper, what you want to do is empower those people. And so, even though there are rules and rules and rules, as the bureaucracy becomes more refined, there are more ways to get around those rules, and the bureaucrat is empowered to help you get around those rules. So my thing is, don't don't play an oppositional game with the bureaucrat. Be the bureaucrat's best friend, and if you're the bureaucrat's best friend, the bureaucrat may just find a way to help you out. And that's just a little side piece, and that's where I'm going to finish this video. Make the decision about why you want to move. In our case, we didn't want to shovel snow again. We wanted to be able to visit friends in Europe. We were Eurocentric, so we wanted to travel in Europe. That's the way we made the decision. You make the decision as best for you. And then once you do that, you start doing your due diligence. You start looking at where the places are that meet your requirements and how you get there. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next installment of Leaving the United States, from the decision to the result. And I have to tell you that after 5 years of living in France, a little over 5 years of living in France, it has far exceeded our expectations. We are Americans, and there's no denying that. We could always pass as Brits, or we could pass as Australians. People generally don't know, unless you're talking to other English-speaking people. The French don't know the difference between a British accent and an American accent. So you could pass yourself off as something else. But we're Americans. We say it every time. We didn't leave because we hated the United States. In fact, when we left, Obama was president. So we didn't leave because of Trump. We didn't leave because of Obama. We left because we wanted to do something with our lives that was put forward, that could be forwarded by doing what we decided to do, and that was live in another country. Proud to be Americans, proud to be middle class, proud to be able to do what we wanted to do as middle class Americans. But we decided to leave. And if you decide to leave too, I'm going to talk about a little bit more about making that decision, what's involved in that decision, and then how you go about actually making the move. Once again, if you enjoy this video, please like it and then subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to put another video like this every week or two, so that you can follow the path that we took to leaving the United States. Have a good one.